License and registration, please.
I don't use license or registration when I travel.
Why not?
I'm a sovereign citizen.
Oh, you're one of those people.
The sovereign citizen movement is absurd. These are people that think they found some kind of loophole in the Constitution and the laws of the United States that simply allow them to sidestep government laws and regulations. This idea seems ludicrous, but are they right? Have you and I been reading the Constitution wrong this whole time? I'm a fan of the Constitution and of limited government. I want the government out of my life too. So I dove deep into this topic to see if there's any truth to their ideas and if we can try to use them to have more freedom. The first example is a video from Facebook sent to me by a viewer, and we'll call this guy Brandon. Brandon is being pulled over by the police for not having registration displayed on his vehicle.
Hey, sir.
Yeah, how's it going?
Pulled you over for expired registration.
Yeah, I don't have registration.
From the video, we don't know exactly what Brandon's plates look like, but some liberty-minded individuals display some type of placard such as this on their vehicle. Brandon asserts to the officer that he doesn't need license or registration.
Yeah, I don't use registration or license when I travel.
Okay. Why is that?
Because I'm not a United States citizen.
So what are you?
I'm a state national.
Okay. So do you have a driver's license?
No, I use a passport when I travel.
Do you have a passport?
Yeah, I got a passport. Would you like to see it?
Please.
There you go.
This first part of the interchange isn't crazy. People come to the United States from other countries all the time. And depending upon the specific scenario and the state laws in question, they may not need a driver's license to drive their vehicle. In Virginia, for example, if Brandon has a passport from his home country along with a driver's license from his home country, and he's just temporarily visiting here for a short period of time, he's cool to drive. But then this happens.
Do you reside in California?
No.
Who's the vehicle registered to?
Well, I own the vehicle. I have my MCO right here. It's not registered to the state.
Do you plan on registering it?
No, I let the registration expire
I
because.
see that. So then should I tow your vehicle?
Well, no, I don't think that that's reasonable.
It's legal. For the vehicle code.
Yeah, but it's not lawful.
it's
I'm not operating in commerce. I'm not operating in commerce. You guys have the authority to regulate commerce, right?
Yeah, whatever.
Well, what do you mean whatever? What do you mean
I
whatever?
don't understand all that stuff, so I see where this is going. So.
Now it's clear what he's trying to do. He's a sovereign citizen, and that's exactly what the officer thinks is going on too. And that might not be good news for Brandon, because encounters like this can get combative. Before you abandon the video and think that I'm lumping all these people in with the wrong term and that Brandon's not really a sovereign citizen, I'm using this term loosely to talk about this group of people that try to look for loopholes to find liberty. I'm not saying that everyone claims that title of sovereign citizen. We're trying to talk in general strokes here to look at some of these arguments to see if there's any merit to them. Earlier in 2023, Chase Allen is pulled over for displaying a sovereign citizen license plate. Chase handles the initial part of the stop almost exactly like Brandon by providing a passport to the officer.
What's this?
This is a passport.
But the encounter keeps escalating.
Right now.
And we're going to have an issue where
So
you're
step
going to
out
have
of the
to
car right now. Don't step out of the car. We're going to break the window and pull you out. Out of the car. Gun.
Unfortunately for Chase, the officers shoot and kill him after it appears that he's trying to draw his sidearm from his holster. And this situation might be going through the officer's mind as he's talking with Brandon. So let's see what the officer does next.
The vehicle code in California states that if you're going to drive a vehicle in California or own one,
This is an automobile, not a motor vehicle. By definition of the California vehicle code, I got it right here.
Right.
I'm not operating in commerce, so there's no reason for you to regulate me.
Oh, okay. All right. Got it.
That's all.
No worries.
I'm actually pretty impressed with this officer because he's a lot calmer and more professional than I might have been in this situation. I have no idea what California vehicle code Brandon is reading from, but I looked it up myself. A vehicle is a device by which any person or property may be propelled, moved, or drawn upon a highway, excepting a device moved exclusively by human power or used exclusively upon stationary rails or tracks. And for motor vehicle, we have this definition. A motor vehicle is a vehicle that is self-propelled. Motor vehicle does not include a self-propelled wheelchair, motorized tricycle, or motorized quadricycle if operated by a person who, by reason of physical disability, is otherwise unable to move about as a pedestrian. Sadly for Brandon, he's just plain wrong about what the law says. But why does he believe he's right? I dug a little deeper and I think Brandon is referring to the United States Code, which is federal law. The term motor vehicle means every description of carriage or other contrivance propelled or drawn by mechanical power and used for commercial purposes on the highways in the transportation of passengers, passengers and property or cargo. But remember, this is federal law, and the Constitution gives to Congress the power to regulate interstate commerce. That's why the Federal Criminal Code definition of motor vehicle is only talking about vehicles used in commerce. So Brandon is half right. If federal law is all that exists, he's actually correct. But what's great about how our federal republic works is that the states retain all the power to regulate things that they don't explicitly give to the federal government to do. That's why laws in Virginia or in Texas can be very different from laws in California. And frankly, those of us who don't live in California want it to stay that way. Okay, so as far as vehicle registration goes, Brandon hasn't convinced me or the officer that the sovereign citizen argument has any merit from a legal perspective. So here's what Brandon tries next.
I have a name decree, so I'm not even, you guys administer the estates of the dead, okay? That's why you have, that's you, the police, the policy enforcers for the United States Corporation. That's why you guys are police and not sheriff. So you have codes, statutes, regulations, and that's what you enforce. But I'm not a person in commerce right now. And so that's all.
Brandon is off the reservation now. I'm sorry for those of you out there who might believe this stuff, but he is just spouting nonsense. He might as well be saying bing tittle tittle bong, because he is literally speaking gibberish to the officer at this point. Brandon goes on to explain more of his theory to the officer.
This is a decree from the judge, right? And I've changed my name from all caps, right? To a proper stylization, okay? And now this has to do with when you're born, they create a trust in your all caps name.
Right.
And then they basically trick everybody, or we all assume that as our identity. That's why every government paper you've ever had or any bills that come to your house, they're all in your all caps name. But that's not you. You're actually this name.
Right.
And the reason why you can't give me a ticket, except for something in my all caps name, is because at the highest levels, you guys are administering the estates and the trusts of everyone.
Check it out.
Wow. And when you change your name, I'm out of the system now.
I don't know what red pill Brandon thinks he took, but he wasted filing fees and his time by filing a nonsense legal petition at the courthouse that has zero legal effect. I dug a bit more into this as well, and he's not alone. Check out this Quora question. Does it matter if your name is printed in capital letters on your birth certificate? Cindy writes, yes, it does. The all caps name, according to Black's Law Dictionary, is only assigned to a dead man's estate or a corporation. When you register your baby's name at birth, it is not just recording a birth, as you were told, but rather probating it. They assign a file number and register your estate to issue bonds against it to be sold on the stock exchange. Let's stop right here. The government doesn't need to set up a trust for every baby that's born in order to issue bonds against the trust. The government can just issue bonds because they're the government. That's how governments borrow money. The Treasury Department does need people to shuffle paper, click buttons, and drink coffee, but they don't need a trust in your baby's name to issue a bond against. That's not how this works. Okay, so that's 2 strikes for Brandon, and here's his final bit of reasoning for the officer.
I mean, you took an oath when you become a police officer, right?
Like a
to defend the Constitution.
Right.
Right.
And I served 20 years in the Marine Corps.
All right, so you should know that part of the Declaration of Independence, which is what the Constitution is constituting, right? We're moving forward. It talks about liberty, right?
Yep.
And so you're taking an oath to defend the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence. Liberty means the right of locomotion. Okay?
Right.
That's right out of Black's 4th dictionary.
Okay.
So I have the right to move about, and it also is my free speech. How can I go and have free speech and assemble and have my constitutional right if I have to have a license to move around? That right there is against my rights.
And here's where Brandon gets it half right again. The Declaration of Independence is simply the document that broke us away from Great Britain. It's where we said we are independent. However, the Constitution does not actually incorporate the Declaration of Independence. It's a separate document. Keep in mind that between the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution as we know it, there was a previous document known as the Articles of Confederation. That was the first attempt at our founders establishing a federal government. Yes, law enforcement officers do generally take some type of oath to uphold the Constitution. However, the actual explicit words of the Declaration of Independence aren't incorporated into the Constitution. It's two separate documents. But putting that aside, I actually agree with Brandon that our founders would be horrified at our concept of driver licenses. For one, the law holds that it is a privilege and not a right to be able to drive down the road, which means that it's much easier for the government to take back that privilege, that you're not entitled to due process safeguards when they decide it's time to suspend your license. Instead of actually requiring that you get notice and bring you in for a hearing, they can just suspend it in the computer and mail you a letter. And then you can get arrested because you never even knew that your license was suspended to begin with. I think our founders would be shocked, horrified, and rolling in their graves if they knew how we handled the freedom to move down the highway. And this officer is actually being pretty chill about all this.
So I normally issue fix-it tickets for this. How does this work with you?
Fix-it tickets?
Yeah, for registration, it's a fix-it ticket.
Well, I mean, I'm not obligated to have registration if I'm not operating in commerce.
Right, but
So-
I'm obligated to write a fix-it ticket for your vehicle.
I mean, if you want to write me or hand me a ticket, I mean, I'll rescind it and I'll rescission it.
Okay, that's
I
fine.
mean, I don't think it's worth your time.
Probably not, but I gotta do something.
Brandon is right about this too. Politely arguing gibberish with an officer on the side of the road could make it realize that you're not worth his time to issue a fix-it ticket where he has to come to court and further argue with you and the judge. So what's the verdict? Well, I sympathize with Brandon's position and his desire to be more free. He's going about it the wrong way. And this is where he completely loses me.
Right?
Just drive safe. I'm impressed you have
Travel safe. Driving is the commercial term. See, this is how they get us with diction, right? If you say driving, then suddenly you're in a motor vehicle, right? And that's a commercial term.
Again, with this commercial vehicle nonsense. Yes, words do matter, but we as individuals don't just get to change definitions of words, especially words that are actually given specific legal meanings in the criminal law. You can't take an activity, like driving a car, decide to call it something else, traveling, and all of a sudden exempt yourself from the criminal law that refers to driving a car. If, on the other hand, Brandon was simply just traveling down the road on foot, he'd be right. He wouldn't need a registration or a driver's license. So how does this officer finally end the encounter?
Just so I'm within the policy, it's a verbal warning, but you're not detained, but just verbal warning.
Thank you. So what was your name?
After all that, it actually works. Brandon drives away without receiving a ticket. He travels away. And if you want to learn how to defend yourself when being pulled over by the police without this absurd sovereign citizen nonsense, check out this next video. I'll see you over there. And remember, don't talk to the police, even if you don't think you're a citizen of the United States.